damage one of those tees, you just let me know. I'll send you another one.
Well, I like
but that's a pretty good look. I gotta
like
tell you
that.
that.
Anyways, guys, if you're joining us here on the Car Guy and Six Fan Show, which is powered by the Get Out and Drive podcast, we are live on Thursday evening, season 8 of the greatest hits of the Car Guy and Six Fan Show. My name is Jason. I am the Car Guy of the Car Guy and Six Fan Show. And this fellow over here.
Well, that makes me Six Fan of this operation. I'm Grant Tommy, or straight Six Fan on YouTube, and we're excited to have back once again on the Car Guy and Six Fan Show here tonight, season 8, greatest hits. Our boy Robbie down below. So, Robbie, why don't you, for those who might not know who you are, why don't you give a quick introduction of yourself?
Hey guys, thanks for having me. I'm Robbie with United by Trucks, and we're a classic truck YouTube channel. We focus primarily on GM trucks, which a lot of you have picked up over the last couple of years, but we still try to showcase Fords and Dodges and other brands as well, but primarily based around GM trucks, and glad to be here tonight. So thanks for having me.
So before we jump right into all the hard questions and updates and all that stuff, we want to make sure that we do welcome those who have joined us in the chat. Looks like 15 or 16 so far tonight. Grant, why don't you tell us who has joined us so far?
Yeah, of course. So Uncle Squirrel was in there bright and early, and then we follow that up with Paul Meyer, Dave Carey, Will's Wheels, Get Out and Drive, Hobbins Hot Rods, Joanne Meyer is moderating for us tonight, My Chevy Homestead, and that's at least the people dropped in the chat so far. I'm sure there are others rolling in, others keeping their thoughts to themselves. We want to hear from you, so give us a I don't know, an a-hole comment at least.
That shouldn't be hard to do.
Yeah. So as I mentioned in the opening of this show, guys, we are the Car Guy and Six Fan Show powered by the Get Out and Drive podcast. I want to mention to you guys to head on over to getoutandrive.com. Make sure you guys sign up for the National Get Out and Drive Day. When you sign up, you will get a free sticker. You can take it, stick it on your car. We have one for every year. This is 2022. National Drive Day is just an excuse to get in that vehicle and drive. If you can't do that, play a game, watch a movie, whatever you're going to do. Just make sure you hashtag, get some pictures, hashtag Get Out and Drive, and National Get Out and Drive Day. So thank you so much. We do have John and Joanne and Paul in the chat from the Get Out and Drive podcast. Thank you guys for joining us over here tonight. Why don't we jump right into the first question, Grant, and see if we can get this show on the road.
Yeah, so Robbie, we were talking backstage, if you will, before we went live, kind of where we left off from your last appearance. And you were just wrapping up the Blazer, and the destination, or the goal, I guess I should say, for finishing a project. You know, oftentimes we need to light fires on our own asses to get to the finish line. Was the Texas Throwdown?
Lone Star Throwdown.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know, it's been an event that for years, you know, I used to, I'll just rewind back to my high school days. I was a subscriber to Truckin' Magazine. Like, yes. I remember in Street Truck Magazine. So I remember seeing this event, and it's been just kind of a gold standard. If I'm not mistaken, taking the Blazer, was that your first trip to the Lone Star Throwdown?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about, like, what, not just the Blazer build meant to you and your channel, but the culmination of it going to the Lone Star Throwdown for your first time.
Yeah, that's actually a good question. It's something I hadn't thought about in a while, but it is something that has, you know, it really helped us grow. We're actually going through a similar type phase with a new build that we're working on, and we're just starting that. And really, I think the hope for us is that we can engage our audience around one single sort of topic, narrative, concept, project that they can really grab a hold of and really, you know, feel like it's something tangible that they're a part of. And so when we put the Blazer together, which was a 86 four-wheel drive Blazer that we took the body off and put it on a two-wheel drive airbagged Blazer chassis, it was something that, you know, I was looking to connect with the audience, try to give them something that had, you know, really that weekly update, that really rich content that they could grab a hold of and hopefully be interested in and follow along. Because not only do we build them on the channel, but we also typically have something that bookends that we're trying to get the you know, the vehicle ready for, the truck ready for. And in this case, it was Lone Star Throwdown. So not only do we, chronicle the build on the channel, but we drive the thing immediately. And most of the time it's Texas, Arizona, excuse me, somewhere with some distance. And that's really our shakedown run. A lot of times we finish these things within 48 hours of needing to leave. We may drive it 10 miles around just to make sure that it'll brake and, accelerate and do the things we need it to do. But outside of that, we just go.
And sometimes when you're in that position, there's certain parts of the vehicle that we would classify as getting them done, like wipers or stuff like that,
Yeah.
headlights that just, we don't need those. We're just going to hit the road and go. But Robbie, you've had a lot of trucks come through UBT in the last 2 years, and you've made some fairly significant road trips. And I'm leading up to the Suburban and the 59 Chevy that you went to. Was it Oregon?
Yeah, so we flew into Boise, Idaho. We ended up picking up the 59 in Oregon, but I'm trying to remember. Oh, and then we came back through Utah. I was like, there's an Idaho, Oregon, Utah thing there, but we drove back through Utah. So picked up the Suburban, a 76 3/4 ton 4-wheel drive Suburban in Boise. This is kind of a convoluted story. So the guy I bought the 59 from, we became friends over the time that I was trying to figure out how to get out there and get it. That ended up being like a year. I bought this 59 that a fellow who watches the channel, who's now become a good friend of mine, Derek Kiger, he basically sold me the truck. It took me a year to really figure out a good way to get out there and make something cool of it. And a part of that plan was about 35 days before I went out. I don't like flying, so I was trying to minimize flying as much as possible. And I figured out that, well, if I could just fly out there, find something and drive back, that would be ideal. I would only have to fly once, not twice. So ended up 35 days out finding a 76 K20 Suburban that he ended up picking up for me. He went and checked it out, test drove it, did the whole thing that you would do as if you were buying it for yourself. And basically took it home and actually started working on it, started trying to improve it. I would send him parts out there until I could get there and he would install them. It was fun for him to tinker, and it was something that, was really helping us out. So we get out there, the Suburban's ready to go. I rented a U-Haul trailer. So Mike and Anna, who are sort of my co-conspirators on the channel, along with a lot of others, Rick, Ron, Rocky, all the crew, but they flew out with me. We picked up the Suburban, grabbed a U-Haul trailer, and then drove into Adrian, Oregon, which is about an hour away where Derek's dad lives, picked up the 59, and then drove 2,100 miles back to Georgia.
Well, if you guys are enjoying your time, I just wanted to remind everybody or encourage everybody to take a moment, share this link out on whatever social media platforms the most advantageous for you to do so. Get the word out. The more people in here, the more fun it is. But Robbie, so yeah, I'm a big fan of, my wife and I did a trip to that area. We love Boise, Idaho. It's a beautiful area up there. So I'm pretty jealous of you that you got that cross country experience.
But I mean, it was totally my first time being in that part of the world. I've been to Arizona, I'd been to Colorado before, but I just flew in, flew out. So it was, I'll be honest with you, that trip, flying out there, meeting Derek and his family, and then driving back with Mike and Anna and doing that whole thing. It was a sort of a life-changing moment. It's a different, kind of perspective doing something like that.
Well, that's awesome. And so let's keep it right there for a second. So, you mentioned how a fan of yours tells you, or you find a truck and you only know it because it's from a fan of yours, and you now are like, sure, have this friendship. So talk a little bit about relationships that you've made over the years after going live with United by Trucks, and talk a little bit about kind of some of the more enriching or more fulfilling relationships you've discovered and fostered through this time.
Yeah. I'll try not to name names because that really puts, I'm sure I'll forget someone or forget something in the moment, but just generally, I would say that United by Trucks, I've always thought about my friends and the people who are into these trucks as a community. I think we all sort of do. But I really wanted to make that sort of a critical component to United by Trucks. It's not just me wrenching by myself. It's not just me filming by myself in most respects. And, 97% of the time, it's me and a friend or me and three friends, in the shop, in the driveway, out in the concrete in the front of the shop, just doing some mods to our trucks. And I think that most of you can relate. I know you two can, how much fun it can be building that friendship, building that relationship over something you both enjoy. I mean, I got to meet both of you because of this. I mean, it is, I've kept in touch with Jason a good bit. Grant, we interact on social media some. I mean, it's just it's a really cool thing to know that, and even internationally. I mean, we have, people who buy our merch from all over the world, and they communicate via email with us. It's just it's a really cool and fulfilling thing to be able to build relationships with people who seem to enjoy what you're doing and share a similar passion.
Well, and I think part of that too, Robbie, is like, I'm not going to brag by no means, but I think that when I stumbled upon your channel, like, you were in the 3-digit subscription numbers, like it was less than 1,000. Mm-hmm. And I just stumbled upon you one day. We talked about this on your first visit, how you basically went from non-existent as Whitlock Garage into the United by Trucks brand, and just started soaring almost overnight. Like, you took less than a month to get to the 1,000 subscribers. You went clear to 10,000 like nothing ever happened. Yeah. And all because of literally the theme, the United by Trucks theme. People are drawn into it. I got drawn into it simply because of the trucks and that. And then I started following, and I think a lot of people did the same thing. Is your personality, you're very likable on camera. Your videography is on par. Like, you're great at doing the editing and the camera shots and this and that. And I guess where I'm going with this is, as we lead up to where things are currently with the channel, as of recently, a few things have actually kind of come to a little bit of a standstill.
Sure.
For a short period of time.
Yep.
So where are we now? Like, what brought you to that standstill, and then where are we today?
Yeah. So I think the channel has been live for 3.5 years, and 3.5 years is not a very long time, but 3.5 years is a very long time in normal senses, but 3.5 years is a very long time online. So I think that, the channel started a certain way. It started with me in the garage by myself as Whitlock Garage, doing the simplest of modifications that you could do to my 68 GMC. And then I had a period where, even during that time, I was partnered up with a friend of mine. We were doing a lot of things at his farm nearby. We had a lot of classic trucks. We were really doing some of the more antics thing. And I think his specific farm had a really cool look that came across really fun, and really, it just had that right look on camera, if I'm being honest. That changed after about, I guess that would have been about 1.5 years in. And since then, we've been doing things a little more, I'll just say a little more traditional from a shop perspective. We have a larger shop now, and a part of that is because I partnered up with my friend Mike Howe, who from How's It Doing Garage, who is just a insane fabricator, just has a ton of mechanical knowledge. And he builds trucks for his customers, and then helps me build my trucks with our friends. And so we partnered up, we got a shop together, and we have storage together, because I typically buy a lot of trucks, which is kind of a sickness I need to figure out how to shake, because I don't have time to work on them all. But my point is, there's been a couple of iterations over the last 3.5 years of how the channel has looked. There's been secondarily a lot of iterations in my mood, in my output, in my, just drive to really want to try to produce content, the kind of quality that I want to watch myself every single week. So that has been something that, the YouTube algorithm doesn't really recognize. It doesn't really like that. It wants the consistency. And so there's been sort of this push and pull about sort of how I wanted to approach the channel with the quality of content versus quantity of content. and really what the algorithms see from a social perspective. And that really goes across to Instagram and Facebook as well. So I think you've got, those two prongs that have sort of helped shaped our journey from whether you look at it from a subscriber perspective or a view perspective, that has, this made a difference.
Well, so you talked about how United by Trucks has taken on a couple different faces depending on whatever era you're in, what you just talked about. But one of the things that's remained constant is exactly what you talked about in there too, was wrenching with your friends.
Sure.
And even so much so that, I mean, I know the square bodies are big on your channel, but there's also Teddy, of course, which is not a square body, but you had your wrenching with friends was the thing that you really wanted to latch on to. And there was that OBS, the 6.5 liter diesel, heavy half ton project.
That truck right there.
if you want, I think that's the video I'd recommend for people to go watch. If you just really want to get like a slice of life, an idea of what United by Trucks is supposed to mean, I would direct them to that one. But so talk about that project a little bit, and what the ups and downs were of that day, that kind of that thrashing on that Sunday.
So this truck just came out of nowhere. I mean, this is just like your typical friend. You pull up at his house, you pull up at his shop, you pull up at his garage, and he's got some clunker just sitting out front all of a sudden. Well, that's what happened with me. I pulled up at the shop and Mike has this clunker sitting out front, and it immediately made me think, that's the truck I learned to drive on. That's the same truck, the 94 Z71 extended cab truck that my dad had. And when I wrecked my S10, was left to drive, thankfully. He let me drive it until I got my truck fixed. So it immediately just hit me with all sorts of nostalgia. Now, granted, my dad's truck was a much nicer truck, but it was, the white extended cab, gray interior, front buckets. I mean, it was just, this truck is a sort of a heavy half, I think you said. It's a K2500 light duty, but it's 6 lug with a 14 bolt rear end. It's got a 4L80 and a 6.5 turbo diesel in it. So it's kind of just a mixed bag between half ton and 3/4 ton. But the truck just really reminded me of my dad. And I had a toolbox that I had actually just bought from Ron that was a really nice snap-on box. And Mike saw me coming off the trailer with that box, and before you know it, we'd struck a deal. And he gets the toolbox, I get the truck. Now, thankfully, he had just gotten it running. The fuel system was all brand new, and I could get in it and drive it down the road. So I was like, this is a win for me, because I'm a truck guy. I want another truck. I'd rather have a truck over a toolbox. so that's kind of how that ended up. And then we were at Lone Star Throwdown again, and we were talking to the Detroit Steel folks. We have a really great relationship with Mob Steel, Detroit Steel Wheel, and they have a new wheel, or had a new wheel at the time out, called a Mac. And we got to talking about that wheel on this OBS, and before you know it, it just sort of snowballed. So that really, I actually had the parts and sat around on the build for like a year because of motivation, or lack of motivation. Just really needing to focus, somewhere else on another project to try to get something, to really get something out and going. And it just so happened that my friend Rick, who started SQRBDY while we were on the channel, actually, I think he started it before the channel, but we partnered up and started putting on a show in Atlanta called C10s in the City. And so it's just a really unique sort of concept around having a show in a city environment. It's right next to the old Turner Field where the Atlanta Braves played. It's in a really cool location. And in Georgia and in the South, you don't really see a lot of shows directly in the heart of cities. So at that show, we raffled off basically a day with UBT guys, coming in and hanging in the shop to support breast cancer research. So Joey Harrelson ended up actually bidding and winning on that. And I got to thinking, what is a project that we can really make a difference on and do it all in a day? Just pick a Sunday, get all the guys in the shop. Joey came in, and it was the OBS. We had a lift. We had, we had a rough country lift, a 4-inch lift, some general grabber tires, some Detroit steel wheels, and a Diamond Eye turbo back 4-inch exhaust. And that's what we installed in a day in here. And I appreciate your comments, Grant, about that video sort of encompassing a lot of what UBT is about, because I hadn't really thought about it that way. I would hope, I guess initially I'd hoped it would come off that way, but yeah, it has been, I don't know. I really think that video turned out well. Obviously the truck turned out well. I mean, it had nowhere to go but up. So really, really excited about how all that turned out.
Well, we spent a lot of time talking about, you know, the friendships, the relationships, the networking that not just United by Trucks has brought, but also that the actual YouTube channel itself
Sure.
has brought together. Because of your channel, I'm able to speak freely, text, call anytime. Brian Harrison,
Yep.
Great dude,
Great friend.
very,
Yes.
very open. Will tell you exactly what you need to know, and you know, and being a part of that, we also kind of eliminate, or we don't generally talk too much about the family aspect of what it takes to,
Yeah.
you know, film, edit, project trucks, and more project trucks. That it takes a toll on not just family time, but you know, family life and how
Yeah.
we do it. Now, I noticed that you know, there's a lot of episodes that you do sometimes when you're traveling, your family's with you.
Yep.
But you've got to have a very understanding significant other to support these illnesses that we have.
Sure.
I know that I do. Because I have multiple projects. You know, Grant, he's just generally doing one at a time. That's a little easier to palate, I think, for most spouses. But you've got way more than just 2 or 3.
Yeah.
You're in deep. Like,
I'm in deep.
how does the missus feel about this? And obviously she's got to support it, or else you wouldn't be continuing to do it. But
It's true.
like, explain a little bit about that relationship between the channel, the projects, and family life.
Well, the first thing I'll say is it takes a massive amount of coordination, scheduling, hand holding, understanding, listening. It takes all of those things that really could apply to any marriage or any relationship. But, you know, I've got to say the first year where we were seeing all of that growth, it was new to me. I was new to editing. I'd never even picked up a camera before. I was just, you know, I was really so deep into this. I'd forgotten about, you know, not really forgotten, but it's like I'd forgotten about my day job. I'd forgotten about, you know, some of those important things. And I think that specific year and even since then has really taught me the value of priority and prioritization, and where I need to put, you know, time and when I need to let UBT be the pressure, and when I need to just not really focus on it for a little while. You know, the family. So to answer your question in short, my wife is fully supportive. It took a while to help her understand, and for me to really understand what all this meant over the last, what it was meaning over the last couple of years. So I think it's probably made us closer, because we can talk about this on a whole different level, and it's a new aspect to our relationship that we didn't have when we got married 10 years ago or 9 years ago. But you know, there's other things that, you know, the familial family relationship thing that, you know, really has contributed to some of my, you know, I guess, lack of getting videos out every week or consistently. You know, we've had some pretty significant death in my family over the last year. And I don't mean to bring the conversation down, but, you know, if I'm really just being honest and transparent, that has affected me. My wife's had COVID 4 different times. My little girl's had it 3 times. I had it once recently. And, you know, that's not unique to me. I know that. I know others are in the same boat, but it does stifle my creativity. It does, you know, move my focus away from UBT. So I think those are probably another reason that is probably another reason that, you know, we have these sort of growth periods, and then we'll have these kind of stagnant periods. And it's really reflective of what I'm doing from a productivity standpoint. If you feed the beast, in most cases, it will reward you in some way. So But all that to say, my wife is very supportive. She helps me with orders. She's here with me, a couple of times a week, and she's really even looking for ways to help grow, her role with the company and the channel even more. And I'm excited about that.
Well, at one point in time, Jason and I kind of prided ourselves on making Car Guy and Six Fan Show a place to learn tips and tricks on YouTube. And at some point, I think Jason and I kind of stopped caring as
Yeah.
much. But
Yep.
I think I speak for Jason when I say I don't know that the consistency thing's that important to YouTube anymore. It
Yeah, and you could
was.
be right. Yeah.
It was once, so I wouldn't beat yourself up about that because
Yeah.
I think they're really looking more towards like, okay, it's been around long enough. I think they really are now to the point, and I mean, it's getting more and more competitive by the day. So it's like, how
For
good of a
sure.
storyteller can you be, and how good
Yeah.
is your content? And I think that's really what they're putting their priorities on, and that's probably the way it should naturally go.
I
But
think so. Yeah, for sure.
I want to go back to the UBT K5. I did it.
Just call
And
it the Blazer. I wish I'd have never named that thing that. That's how terrible I am with
Yeah.
names.
But it always rolled off your tongue so well. Of course, we don't know how many times you cut that out. When you
They're
screwed
typically
up.
one cut. It's typically one cut. I don't really go back and do things over.
Well, one of the things that you kind of took the internet by storm with was just the idea of, because I experienced this with my Fairmont build. Everybody loved the seats, the
Yeah.
era appropriate 1978 patterns, but you kind of took a creative spin on it, and you knew what you wanted. So tell the group, if they haven't seen, where did you find your fabric for your seats?
So I can't take full credit for this idea. Cato, who's here in Atlanta now, has become a friend of ours, and I was talking to him about the seats one day, and I said I'd like to do a plaid insert. I know everybody's doing plaid inserts. I could go to SMS or something and find some really expensive NOS fabric, but I'd rather not do that. Do you have any ideas? And he said, you should look at kilt material. And so I went to usakilts.com and started looking at kilt material. And man, if there weren't just a zillion choices, and they had one that would work very, I mean, it was perfect for what I was trying to do. The Blazer was blue and silver with a red pinstripe. I wanted to do a blue and red, or excuse me, a red, blue and red plaid with a really nice blue vinyl that really, tied back to how it would have been originally. And that's what I did. And it worked out really, really well. Cato did a beautiful job on those seats. And I'm really happy with how it turned out, especially with all the factory stuff. I mean, the interior was all new, but it was all stock. I mean, there was nothing really crazily modified on the interior or anything like that. But I think the seats set it off for sure.
So if you guys are watching this right now, and this is the first time that you're seeing Robbie, he's got a YouTube channel called United by Trucks, and we have been posting some links in there as well for some merch. Joanne's been posting that. If you want to help support that channel, you can get one of those great hats, the t-shirt that he's wearing there, maybe even an old Teddy tee. Do you still have some of those kicking around?
I do, and I am out of larger sizes, and I've been getting beat up over that. So they're coming in. Don't worry.
So, and if you want to get the custom old Car Guy version, we can rip the sleeves off for you too if you want to do that.
I'll just send it to you first, and you can just slam it in the door of your square body back.
Yeah, there you go. So I want to kind of change the direction of the interview a little bit, and I want to talk a little bit of tech. Now, I know that don't take this the wrong way, because I'm not looking to insult you, but
no.
I know that when it comes to the real technical stuff, you got guys that'll help you with that.
That's right.
And I don't, and I turn to channels like yours for that type of inspiration to see,
Sure.
Okay, well, what did Robbie do? Who did he ask? And I kind of lean that way. So in my truck, I converted to just a small block Chev. I haven't gone the LS route.
Yep.
Kept the small block Chev 700R4, and I've added fuel injection to it.
Yes.
And I made the stupid mistake of placing the fuel pump at the rear of the tank. And everybody knows the square body tanks are in a long box are like 5 feet long.
Yeah.
So you get down about 3/4 to half a tank, step on the brakes, and all that fuel slides away. So I'm going to leave this with you. Maybe you can't answer it, but maybe we can talk about it afterwards. How do I fix the fuel slosh with the existing equipment that I have?
You might have to replace your tank, but you could replace it with a baffled tank where you won't get the slosh and get the fuel starvation. So you could buy, I think it's an 87 and up EFI square body tank that if you're still doing a drop-in pump or a drop-in sender and even an external pump, well, if you're doing an external pump, then it wouldn't matter. But if you got a drop-in pump, then a baffled 87 and up square body tank should take care of you.
So I did look at that, and the reason why I didn't go that route was twofold. So one, a GM11A, which is a standard tank for these things here from Spectra, they're $105.
Yep.
The 87 and up tanks for the EFI are $470.
Yes, they know what they have.
So they know what they have. So that's the reason why I didn't go that route. But the second reason is because I've already got the pump, the in-tank pump set up.
Sure.
So if I went with the EFI, then I've got to replace the sending unit with something as well.
No, you should be able to drop. So if you've got your fuel pump and sender and all of that is one sort of mechanism that's dropping down inside the factory tank, you should also be able to make that work in the 87 and up tank. And I hope I'm speaking correctly about this. I haven't thought about this in a minute, but I'm thinking that the only difference is the baffles in those tanks. So that whole pump sending setup should fit with, if not perfectly, but with a little modification. You shouldn't have to replace everything.
Yeah. So, or the other option is to simply remove that setup.
Yeah.
And go with the Holley replacement with the sender and the pump and everything.
That's right.
And again, it's $500.
Yeah, you gotta study EFI. It costs money to get it right.
Man, how do I pull that one over on my wife?
I haven't told anybody. We haven't really told anybody this yet. And I guess it'll probably come out next week. I haven't even shot the video yet, but we're doing that same type of setup in that 75 square body we just started on. So I'll get a little more sharper on the details, and I'll have some parts in hand once I get to looking at them all, and I'll let you know for sure if it'll work out like I think it will.
Hey, sounds good to me.
Well, thanks for the question, man. You put me on the spot.
When all else fails, right? Ask the guy who knows. Right?
Yeah. Sometimes I wonder how much I can even remember anymore.
Yeah.
I get so bogged down in one project.
Well, Robbie, I had mentioned I once upon a time was a street truck magazine or sport truck magazine and trucking magazine subscriber. And you mentioned S10 earlier. That was one of your first vehicles. Yep. I feel like, a lot of automotive trends, they're on this giant cycle, and I feel like maybe we're on the cusp of mini trucks coming back, making a big comeback. But I'm just curious to get from your perspective, what are some of the industry trends you're seeing in the truck scene? What are the things that are becoming popular now, or things that maybe are surprising to you?
Yeah, I think you're perfectly right. I know a lot of guys in the classic truck community started out as mini truckers. My first truck was a 96 S10. The first thing I did was lower it, put it on some 17-inch wheels. I had a 4.3 Vortex. I put Flowmasters on it. I mean, it sounded great. It was a killer truck. And that's what got me going to mini trucking shows or Nopi Nationals, or you name the sort of import mini truck shows that were big at the time, because those were, a lot of times you saw those shows together, the import scene and the mini trucking scene. And those took me to those shows, and I got to see it. I remember a red 67, 68 C10. And that's what got me into classic trucks at 16 years old, 17 years old. So I think that trend is strong. I think mini trucking I hope it will always be there. I think now there's a lot of focus on trying to make sure that these trucks and this heritage and that lineage that comes along with that particular community, that we're trying to document it as much on video as we can. Mike, my shop partner, the guy that helps me a lot on my builds and is a lot of times that tech person for me, he's a mini trucker. He's got a doored square body S10, this extended cab with a big blower motor in it. I mean, it is pretty wild and crazy. And we're going to continue to show that kind of stuff on our channel. I love mini trucks. I don't own one right now, but I'd love to have another second gen S10 like I had when I was 16 and do something with. I can make an excuse to buy a truck for any for any reason, but that is a big trend. I would say another, and I don't know if this is a trend or not, but my thinking as of late, especially, and I'm sitting here looking at a 400 something horsepower LS3, I believe it is, and that's an LT1 and the Suburban right here. These are Mike's customer vehicles. These are not my projects, and I love those, but I'm kind of trying to go the other way from LS, LT, and for one thing, cost. I mean, I'm you can do an LS for very inexpensive. I've got a couple of LS swap trucks. They're great. I can drive them all across the country. I really have no worries. Still get 20 miles a gallon. They're great. But I didn't mess with small blocks very much, even though I had classic trucks. They drove well. Really didn't mess with them that much. Or we buy, a junker and put an LS in it. So I'm really looking forward to building some nice small blocks, maybe a big block. Maybe do something with some diesels. I've got an LBZ and a box truck back here that I've not done anything with for 2 years. So I'm kind of looking at some, different ways to do the same thing. If I do a small block, I want it to have EFI so I can still have all the reliability and get across the country like I always do. I guess that'd be the same with a big block. And then of course with a Duramax or a diesel or something, we'd figure that out as we got to that point. But like I said, I don't know if that's a trend, but it's something that is of interest to me and I hope others. I don't want to see small blocks and big blocks and all that stuff go away. I don't think it is, but I want it to remain prevalent, because for one thing, they look awesome. They build great power and nothing sounds like a Gen 1 small block Chevy. So.
Well, and there's something to be said though too. As time goes on, a lot of that stuff becomes very, very scarce. Like I built this small block Chevy here only because my dad had hoarded a couple of small blocks from 25, 30 years ago. That if it hadn't been for that, I would have just simply rebuilt the small block that was in it.
Yep.
But I had an opportunity to sell that, and while I was building this, so I made it happen. But like you even talk about the reliability of fuel injection and or the LS. A lot of people poo-poo on LS swap in the world. And I'm not saying I'm against it. I'm certainly not, because there is a train of thought there that you're going to be able to get a truck or a car or a project that gives you probably at minimum 325, 350 horse. 22, 23 miles to the gallon going down the highway, and parts at every corner store.
Yes.
If you need something along the way. And I think that you have proven that out several times with different project trucks. LS swapping, as much as people hate it, it certainly makes sense.
And I think if I can interrupt you for a second, I think that especially, the Gen 3, Gen 4 LS stuff, the early LS stuff, you can get into those a lot more inexpensively. And I think, and it did this for me because I'm not, some master certified mechanic. I think it's bringing more people into the community, more people into the scene, because they are, at least in most respects, familiar with that, with that kind of motor, with that, or at least a truck that motor is in. And they know what they're going to get out of it. And they maybe have had a bad experience with an old straight six or an old 350 or something like that wasn't tuned properly. So when you get the LS in, you get it tuned, it's pretty well ready to go forever, kind of thing. Small blocks at times, especially carbureted, you have to tune on them a little bit. So I think that if LSs did anything, I think it opened the eyes of more people to think, hey, I may have to spend some money up front, or I may have to learn a lot up front to do this on my own. But once I do it, I'm in a position where I can drive this truck anywhere I want to go. And I think that's been a cool thing about the LS. And
Luke from Coastal Auto Reaction hit it right on the head. I posted the comment up there that, regardless of what anybody says about what you want to do with your project, build it for you. And I guess that's kind of where I was going. I think even Ryan had mentioned, if I wanted to put a LS turbo swap the Chrysler Cordoba, I mean, sure, if you want to.
That's right.
I don't, but I mean, the idea is when you build a project vehicle, you do it for you. When you choose to put yourself on YouTube for the whole world to see, yeah, for sure, you open yourself up to be critiqued on everything that you do, whether it's the way you part your hair, how long you grow your beard, whatever shirts you choose to wear. I don't know. I get it all.
Just everything.
But it's
everything.
It's everything. So, guys, if you're watching this and you're either a truck guy or you're a car aficionado, no matter how old you are, whether you're in your 20s, whether you're in your 60s, 80s, whatever it is, and you're building a project, build it for you. You're the one that's got to work on it. You're the one that's got to drive it. You're the one that's going to have a blast in it.
You're the one that's paying for it in most instances. I mean, it's your hard-earned money. You should do what you want with it. Yeah.
I'll leave it at that. Don't build it for somebody else.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I think that's one thing that I've tried to do even on the channel, because you talked about a lot of pressures that YouTubers or folks who are on YouTube, deal with. I mean, the most ridiculous of comments, very hurtful comments at times. And of course, somebody's going to tear apart your plan, whether it just doesn't matter. There's going to be that one person. And obviously you think about that one bad comment, or you think about that one person who isn't agreeing with what you're doing, and that can get inside your head. But I've really just tried to stay true to whatever the vision is, whatever the plan is, even among my friends, or even with Mike. Mike is big on laying trucks out. Mike wants to lay a truck flat on the ground, and we're going to. But it is, I'm trying to scratch a couple of specific itches. And I don't want to continue, building a ton of square bodies. I've recently bought a 59. I recently bought a 63. And, they're patina trucks, they're original paint trucks. They've got tons of rust. That's just what I like, really what I can afford and what I enjoy working on and improving. But, this next square body that we're working on, we just dropped the video on today, is, a truck that I'm scratching a very specific itch to see how it turns out. And I think you already know it's going to be small block powered with the EFI. It's going to be a little bit more performance oriented. Not a race truck in a sense, but definitely more performance oriented. And I think it's something that I can really, it's a good foundation for me to learn how to drive in. I'm a cruiser. I do road trips, but I want to be able to learn how to drive more spirited and maybe even do some autocross or something like that. So I'm trying to scratch an itch with a specific one, but yeah, I think the point is true. Like, you got to try to, even among your own friends or people you don't know on the internet, try to stick to your vision, your plan, and hopefully you can see it through, because it is very rewarding when you do see it through.
Well, then there's the stick to your plan, but also one of the things I want to stand out. I want to do something that other people, like, you haven't seen 5 times over. And so
you got that nailed.
So, and I think that's Jason maybe set me up to be the counterpoint to the last conversation, because I am very anti LS swap the world, and not because it's a bad choice. It's really not. Right. For all the reasons you guys talked about, it makes a lot of sense. And I know this is one of the 2 topics I think we ended your last appearance on was you had mentioned you wanted to do something different from a power plant standpoint.
Yeah.
And there's a 59. It's got to be a 59 because it's like the dual headlight look, but it's a cab over truck, an old grain truck that I drive by every day on my way to work. And every day I drive by, I'm like, that thing needs an LB7 in it, and that needs to turn into my ramp truck.
There you go. Like,
that's it needs to be on airbags.
Yes.
So everything you've talked about is just like, yeah, please, Robbie, please do something different. But I think another, like Kevin Ketz, the guy from he used to be on trucks. He did a 5-liter Cummins swap in like a 69 C10. That's a gnarly project if nobody's seen that.
That truck turned out insane. All that firewall work they had to do to get that thing in there, and God, what a cool truck! Very cool.
And then,
truck.
Like I always I'm a big retro resto mod guy. Like, I love putting the modern day power plant in the old car, and then as the resident Ford guy, I always think about I've wanted to flip the script a little bit. How, like, with the Power Stroke being an international motor, and put that in an old Ford, I think about what about putting like a new Ford motor in an old international kind of a thing, like inverting that. And
that Godzilla motor, I'm not sure if you were talking about modern Ford power plants. I mean, you said Power Stroke, but the Godzilla motor, I've been seeing them put them in a couple of different things, and even a Fox body Mustang that I'm drooling over.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's just so many choices available, and I think you're right. I think it is fun to mix up some stuff like that. I don't know. I just think I think that's a cool way to look at it. You should be commended for like trying to think out of the box for sure.
Well, and ultimately where I was going to land with that, well, I guess two places. One, I still have a dream of 4200 vortex swap in my Grand Prix, but
yes,
like the inverted resto mod idea is like the Isuzu top kick, that box truck.
Yeah. Yep.
That Isuzu 1BDT whatever.
Now you're showing out.
Yeah. I think that would be an awesome power
Yeah.
plant for something like a 73 C10 or something.
Oh yeah.
Just so anyway, I just wanted to throw out my ideas so I could vicariously live through you, Robbie. Just you're the one who's got the truck problem, so I'm not.
It is pretty sad. I'd like to put a 5.7 Hemi or some, maybe even loftier, a Hellcat or something in one of these trucks. I know Boris over at Street Machinery, he's done that, and man, that truck turned out so cool. But it'd be fun to, mix up the brands that way, or put a Godzilla motor in one of these trucks. I mean, that'd be insane,
Well, and that's
we probably at least break the internet for at least one video.
Exactly, and that's what I was going to say. There's got to be something out there, that some sort of a combination that just hasn't been done yet.
Yeah.
And I think that to go back to our previous conversation, you said you have a specific itch that you needed to scratch, and I'm thinking, I for the life of me, I couldn't remember the name of the guys, but it came to me when Grant was talking. It's the level 7 guys that you want to build a truck that you can just go out and honk on and have, just stupid fun, right? Like, and that's
stupid fun. Spend stupid money and have stupid fun.
And I think that's what it takes. Like we all do aspire to do that at some point. My problem is I get too attached to a specific project. Like you wouldn't go and do that to Teddy just because I know you wouldn't do it.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that to Teddy.
So you've got to go find a specific truck to make that happen. And when it comes to finding specific projects, you got to have a vision in mind. And the whole idea with a vision is it's got to be something you want to do. B, something you know how to do, and C, something that everybody else wants to see because it's never been done. And I think that's, when you talk about breaking the internet, I think that's kind of the whole goal to a lot of YouTube channels, that they're trying to do something so different and step outside that box. And believe it or not, I believe you did that 3 years ago when you created Whitlock Garage, which is now United by Trucks, that you chose that specific niche and just sailed with it. And I do need to say that I miss seeing John on the channel.
Yeah. And I know a lot of people do, and I haven't addressed it, publicly, but two different directions. There were some things that went on behind the scenes, and it pulled me away from the truck farm. And it was a decision I needed to make, and it really changed a lot. And I would tell him to this day, it sort of changed the trajectory of the channel. But I don't think it changed sort of the mission of the channel or my enthusiasm about what we're doing when, I'm in a place where I really want to create, whether it's create a truck or create a video or whatever. So I'm, I often think about that and how that changed the channel. But it's one of those things. I mean, when you're working with friends, those things can happen, and that's the dangerous piece of it. But I knew that risk going into it, and it's just kind of crazy how that turned out. But I agree with you. It definitely impacted the way I think people saw the channel for the first year and a half, for sure.
As we hit the home stretch for this show with Robbie, with two things, wanted to throw it out to the chat. If you guys want to get your questions answered by Robbie, go ahead and think of them now. Get them in the chat, and we'll try to address as many of them as possible. The other thing is just that simple reminders is every, we'll say, dollar spent in a super chat is a dollar noticed. And at the end of the season, both Jason and I, we make sure we kind of take inventory of that and take note of that. And we try to give out some swag at the end of the year to kind of give back to those who've given to us so graciously. But I guess we'll kind of pause there for a second. Jason, should we go around the horn, maybe talk about upcoming content on each of our channels?
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess I'll start because I did see a comment in there coming from Ryan, Everything is Broken Garage, saying that we still need to do a Mercury diesel swapped Panther platform. So you guys know that I do have 2 Panthers.
Yes.
Junior's got one. And I am sad to say that in an upcoming video, one of my Panthers I've sold. So that diesel swap may or may not happen now, but you're going to have to tune into one of the next videos to find out which Panther got sold and why it went that way and what happened. But I do have a few more videos coming out on fuel mileage. You guys noticed that we did Dale the truck, averaging about 12 and 3/4 miles per gallon, which is actually, people were saying it wasn't that bad, but with the Quadrajet on it, it was getting almost 18. So we got some tuning to do, and I'm not very good at the tuning on the EFI. We're going to figure that out. We're going to do a fuel mileage check on the Chrysler, and you guys obviously saw the fuel mileage check on the Yugo. So we'll be doing a few more of those videos, and that is what will be coming up. Robbie, is there something that you can kind of give us a taste of what's to come that maybe nobody really knows about yet on YouTube?
Oh yeah. Do you have a second and I can grab some keys? Actually,
sure.
I'll just tell you. The truck is right here on the trailer. So I'm sorry for all the bugs and stuff. I'm outside in Georgia at night. It's humid. Loud.
Let's hope his internet catches up so we can
see it.
This is the
75 square body that we just tore the front clip out. Y'all with me?
Yes, sir. We got you.
Just shaky a little bit.
Sorry, the Wi-Fi cut off in the shop. I'm gonna just stay inside. But that 75 square body that I was showing you on the trailer there, that's our next project. It's actually on the trailer. We tore the bed off and the front clip off last night. Introed the build really to everybody. We haven't really gone through all the parts we're going to be putting on it yet, but it's on the trailer going up to Jesse at level 7. Not to get anything, super wild and crazy, but he's developing a braided brake line package for square bodies and for this truck, and it's going to make them available to the market for those who don't want to deal with hard lines when they're trying to replace brake lines. So it's headed up there, but it's also getting Detroit Speed, not at Jesse's. We're going to do this here. It's getting Detroit Speed's new Speed kit. It's not the super high dollar, full blown autocross suspension where you change the cross member, do a 4-link and all that stuff. But we're doing a Detroit Speed kit on the truck, and we're actually doing the new Halabrand Sprint wheel in a gold finish, sort of that old gold looking finish. So those are 2 things that we haven't told anybody about that is going to be coming up on the channel. So we'll be introducing all the parts next week in a video, and then after that we'll get right back on the actual build. And all of that is going to happen over the next 100 days. I should say that. So we're taking this truck from the frame, from a farm truck I pulled in here all the way down to the frame, and then back up and driving it to Dino's Get Down in November.
Nice.
That's looking forward to it.
Yeah, and it's to me, the Dino's coverage, the video coverage is always it's always an awesome video. So again, make sure you guys are subscribed to Robbie.
I gotta say this though, things look better out west. When you're filming things, they just look amazing on camera. So I think that's part of it.
Grant, why don't you fill us in on what's to come on Straight Six Fan?
Well, so if you caught my YouTube short, which is kind of blowing up by my standards anyways, and I'm sure a lot of Robbie's followers can relate to this. If you have somewhere between 1975 and 1985 plastics, GM plastics, the Sun versus GM plastics, Sun usually wins.
Yes, for sure.
So yeah, I'm doing a full restoration of all the plastics on the on Lori G Pre. So look for that. I've still got to edit that up and get it out. But honestly, it's kind of exciting because I didn't want. I was tempted at one point in time. I was going to turn the whole interior gray, and then I started really thinking about all the things I had to track down to make sure that I can like down to like the seat belts themselves.
Yeah. Yep.
And I was getting to that point. I was like, yeah, okay, I don't think I'm going to quite go there. But I did. I'm not doing a factory match to the plastics. I picked a more of like a 1996 to 2002 GM color, and I'm gotta say, in person, I'm like, I'm definitely made the right decision. So really excited to show that off, and that's what's coming up next.
Awesome. So we did have a question come in from Herm. He's recently lowered his 73 C10. He's running 235 75 15s all the way around, but the front tires are rubbing when he turns the wheel. Asking about a tire size recommendation to stop the rubbing.
Yeah, so I would run and what's up, Herm? This guy has been around following my channel for the entire time. So what's up, man? Thanks for joining in. I would run I think it's a 225 70 15 up front. So I think that's the right size. It might be a 225 75, but just take a look at those two. You should get an inch or so out of that, and I've run those on plenty of classic trucks all the way up through square bodies with a 6 or 7 inch wide front wheel, and then I've even run 15 by 8s with a 275 60 on the rear, and that's a great combination if you like that big and little setup.
That surprises me actually a little bit, as big as those wheel wells are on those square bodies. That
like it's awful
offsets, or can't even solve it with offsets any.
Say it again, Grant.
You can't solve that problem any with like just a different offset.
If it's a lowered truck, it's too tall a tire. 235 75 is. Yeah. The square bodies just don't. They're deceptive. They're very shallow.
Crazy.
Yeah.
So that's where slosh tubs come into play. Anyways,
they can. Yep.
We have another question from Dave Carey saying, do you find the availability of trucks is drying up since the explosion of vehicle rebuilds on YouTube?
I don't know if I would say trucks are drying up. I think that admittedly trucks are just going up. The price of a good truck is going up. I may be in a little bit different position where I have lots of people trying to sell me trucks all the time, but I still cruise Marketplace just like everybody else, in bed at night trying to fall asleep, and I'm on Marketplace just messing around like everybody else and every other truck guy. So I still think there's an availability, and it may not, I think you may see it happening more friend to friend maybe than you would like when 5 years ago when Craigslist was just huge with classic trucks. And then of course, Marketplace made it even a bigger community. I find that I'm in a couple of group chats. All my friends in those group chats are all selling trucks to each other. I'm just there watching in most respects because I like cheap trucks. so that a lot of rust comes along with that. A lot of my friends don't like cheap rusty trucks. So anyway, I would say to answer your question that I guess in some respects they may be drying up, but in what I've seen is that just really the price of a good truck has gone up. You go to these shows and I've never seen more trucks in my life. So they're still there. They're still being worked on, being bought, being built. And you still see people pulling trucks out of barns and fields and garages that have been there for 30, 40 years. And it's pretty wild.
Well, and for those who are specifically in the square body truck, the Chevy square body trucks, you got to remember they made that truck from 73 to 87 in a pickup.
That's right.
And there's no firm numbers on how many they made, but they were pumping those suckers out by the millions every year. And they didn't slow down. So if you
and then they made burbs and
absolutely
1 tons and all that up through 91. So
yeah,
you've got a whole
you estimate those numbers, and like there's got to be in excess of 10 million of these square body trucks on the planet somewhere.
Yep.
They're not going to dry up soon. They're going to be hidden, but they won't dry up.
Yeah,
I don't believe anything.
And I mean, I'll take that a step further, even like because of my my pie in the sky business plan of building rat rods out of old grain trucks. Chevy, like the C60, C50, like it's the same cab, right? Like, so there's still good sheet metal out there on some of these bigger bigger scale trucks, but it's
Yep.
the same. It's the same cab. It's the same door. Fenders you're not gonna get bailed
Right.
out on fenders, but you know,
In most
from the
respects, cab and doors you can get
yeah.
can get you there. Yep.
So let's do just one more question, and then we've got to call it quits. We're pushing an hour here. I don't want to tie Robbie up too much further, but we got one last question from Ryan, our resident Newfoundlander, who's asking Robbie, what is your ultimate zombie apocalypse bug out truck?
Meaning, if I needed to escape, get away, get off the grid, what would I put together?
Yep, I'm guessing
Probably. I've got two, and I actually own both of them because I've thought about this kind of thing with both of them. I have an 89, speaking of late square bodies, I have an 89 V3500 right there, or a K30. That truck with some sort of diesel power plant, camper shell, slide in, something like that, with tons of solar, or that brown 70, I believe it's either a 78 or 79. I get it confused with another truck I have, but it's a 78 or 79 1-ton Pathfinder 4x4 conversion van that I've got to do something with on the channel. But it would be one of those two, probably that G30 or K30. Excuse me, it's a K35. It's a GMC K35. Probably that van or this 89 V3500 out here. It'd be four-wheel drive, obviously. Lots of room, lots of towing capacity, lots of ability to haul.
I was actually thinking it was going to have the level 7 motorsport suspension, so you could weave in and out of the zombie.
My plan, if zombies come, is to get the hell out of here, not to stick around and try to weave around them.
Well, and in the background there right now, I can see that old Chevy Vandura motorhome in the background there.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like let's put that thing on like a 8-inch rough country lift.
That'd be
put
cool.
some bull bars around it, bar up the windows, and turbo LS it, and you're good to go.
Yeah, I guess I didn't think about that. If we did a 4-wheel drive conversion on this, I mean, it's ready to go. And put an LBZ in it, we're done. It's got new AC, new interior. We'd be good to go.
You could even put your biodiesel conversion kit tanks in the back.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. When the zombie
I think
apocalypse,
we could all survive. I think we
yeah,
could all
when the
build a
zombie
great
apocalypse happens, Robbie's going to be hitting every McDonald's, Wendy's, and Burger King along the
way. Give me your grease.
So, guys, that's going to be it for the Car Guy and Six Fan Show this Thursday evening. I want to remind everybody that this is a collaborative effort, and next week we're back on Grant's channel where we are hosting the Boss Garage. So make sure you tune into that. Aaron and Rich are coming back again for our Greatest Hits Season 8. So make sure you tune into that. It was one of my best viewed interviews when they were on the first time, but now it's going over to Grant's channel. It's going to be an awesome adventure. Robbie, one last thing. 2020 was the year I was supposed to come down, meet up with you guys.
Yep.
Obviously, shit hit the fan.
Yep.
And we had to call that quit. So I'm hoping that maybe we can plan that for next year.
Oh, that'd be great.
But in the meantime, I want to, at some point, talk with you about possibly doing a C10 show in New England somewhere.
Okay.
Because it's not going to be that much of a drive for you. It won't be that much of a drive for me. But to my knowledge, there's not much going on up there in the C10 world, or the truck world for that matter. So let's see if we can put something like that together.
That sounds great. I know some C10 clubs up there that would be all over that.
Absolutely. So
yeah, that'd be a lot of fun.
I'm going to thank you again for being a part. We will be in touch. Robbie, thanks so much for being a part of the show. And I'm going to turn things over to Grant to close us out.
Well, Jason did a pretty good job reminding everybody where to go if you want to catch next week's episode. So I guess we'll just leave it with, to all my Six fans out there, thanks for watching.